Now he is. Okay. All right. So remember the Great Depression? I know it's been like forever since we talked about it. So try to refresh your memory just a little bit. We did this one last. Yes, we finished this. It should have been the last thing we did. Yes. Okay. Now, during the Great Depression, though, we do have a couple of other events that end up occurring. Now, for example, we have, remember Wally's recording, we have the Dust Bowl. Now, the Dust Bowl ends up being a really key event that ends up showing not only the problems that we have economically, but also environmentally. I would put next to this probably a continuity for agriculture. Yes?
Isn't actually like the Dust Bowl incident, that's one of the events that inspired the movie?
Probably. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, in terms of the Dust Bowl, what was the Dust Bowl? The Dust Bowl was basically this giant bowl of dust. Now, if you've ever heard of the Tornado Alley, that's where this occurs. It's in the Midwest. Basically, what happens is we begin to massively over-farm. We begin to farm so much that we're not watering properly. We're not rotating our crops. The dust gets tired, and you have what's called topsoil. Topsoil exists, but it's very dry here. Well, what happens is, imagine if you just take a giant thing of wind and really loose dirt like sand, it blows up into the air into what's known as the Dust Bowl. Now, the Dust Bowl really was our own bidding. It didn't help that we had a massive drought that year. However, what happens is that all of this dust ends up culminating into this massive natural disaster. Now, in terms of the effects, this is your before picture. So study it, look at where the car is at. This is your after 2 months later. Okay? America became like the Sahara. Massive amounts of dust across the Midwest, and that's where our food comes from. So now our food crops are destroyed, our agriculture is destroyed, and our landscape is destroyed. Now, additionally, though, we have another problem. You have what's called a locust. Now, if you know what a locust is, and you've ever lived in Utah, hopefully you've known what a locust is. Basically, if you know about Utah history, locusts are these giant bugs. They came in, they ate all the crops. The Mormon pioneers supposedly prayed, had the seagulls come. The seagulls ate all the locusts. That's why the seagull is your state bird. Now, back then, the locusts are going to come too. Now, if you don't know what a locust is, we're going to show you a video of what it would be like. Think about all this dust, but also locust invasions. Now, if you have a bug issue and you're scared of bugs, this is a really good time to look away or cover your ears, because you're going to start to feel very uncomfortable very quickly. Yes. Yes. Wood figure. Yeah.
7 feet long.
Okay. So here's your video. It's going to come in a second.
Июля 2015 года, село Чкула. Вот что у нас творится.
Okay. Now, I told you guys it'd be gross. Now, okay, listen. Now, in terms of the effects here, why is this so big a deal to have the locusts? Well, if you've ever read the Bible, and you've ever known about Armageddon, the end of days, whatever you want to call it, you know that there are signs of the end of times. And one of the signs is massive dust, locusts, massive death, income problems, and doesn't that all basically describe the Dust Bowl? People literally thought that the world was ending. Okay? Now, we'll come back to how we're going to solve the Dust Bowl, but let's get a little bit into what happens during the Great Depression. Now, in this, we have the effects of a guy named Herbert Hoover. Now, remember Hoover we talked about? Everyone seems to hate him, but it wasn't really his fault. It was the other dude's fault. Well, people still blame Hoover. Now, Hoover starts trying to solve the Great Depression, and what I would underline is the word laissez-faire economics. He believed in what is called basically voluntarily helping the economy. So while he didn't make any laws specifically to solve the problem, he would say things like, hey, business owners, can you please give them minimum wage so they can be able to live? Or can you please not fire people? There's no laws, so our businesses are going to follow it? No. Now, ooh, that was weird. Sorry, my throat's kind of sore from crying a bunch, so it is sick. Now, in terms of Hoover, though, they are going to memorialize Hoover in an awful way. You see, people are going to begin to be homeless, and they're going to live in these things called a shanty town. Now, these shanty towns are basically these homeless centers, these homeless camps, but they have a great nickname for them called a Hooverville, which is a starred term. So they basically name the homeless centers after your president. Do you see that's kind of like a slap in the face? Yeah. Hold on.
Is Hoover's like trickle-down economics? Is that what the...
Trickle-down economics is a fancy word for laissez-faire, or an easier term for laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is the idea that the government does not do any regulation of the businesses grow, and therefore it trickles down and the economy strengthens with trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is the same exact word as laissez-faire, just a different term. Yes?
Isn't Hooverville the town in Dr. Seuss?
No, Whoville.
Oh.
It's okay, you tried really hard though.
It sounded right.
Yeah. We will actually read a Dr. Seuss book in here when we get to the Cold War. It'll be fun. Now, when we talk about these Hoovervilles, though, these Hoovervilles were filled with so many homeless people, and homelessness was so rampant. So rampant, in fact, that we began to have what is called the hobo. Now, hobo is actually a term that you can use on the AP exam. Hobos basically were what we refer to as transients. They were kids between the ages of 16 and 25 that would move place to place in order to find jobs. Please raise your hand if you are 16 years and older. Especially if you are male, you would be kicked out of your home. You would not be allowed to live there. Your parents could not afford to keep you. In fact, you could get sold. Now, you might say first off, this is like heartless, right? Well, the idea was, I can't afford you. I can't give you a good home. Let me give you a chance to have somebody else help you. Now, additionally, though, the problem that you had, too, is a lot of people say, if nobody has money, how can they afford to buy a kid? Well, if you buy a kid, do you have to pay them to give you labor? No. So farmers, business owners, buy children so that you don't have to pay your workers anymore because you have kids that can do it for you. Child labor. But is it child labor if it's your own kid? And then you get into a whole, child labor to your parents for chores, and then you get into blah, blah, blah. And then I get a phone call. Now, in terms of what these hobos would do is they would actually move on the trains, and they would be the train hoppers. Now, what they would do is they would basically do just like in the movies. Train goes along, you hop on it, and the reason why is because they couldn't afford to go place to place. Now, the reality was this was super illegal, so you'd be thrown in jail. And some people say, well, that's great, right? Free food? Yeah, you go to jail to die. Jail is where there's disease, and there's hunger, and you get fed maybe one meal every other day. You don't go there to have a beneficial, or you get thrown immediately on the streets. Now, additionally, though, this was also dangerous. There were so many instances that you can read where kids fall off the trains and get sucked underneath and get chopped up into little pieces. It was very dangerous to be able to do that. But, of course, we had to see how you guys would do. So we are going to test your hobo skills.
Best hobo here.
Well, we'll see as you survive.
Bet.
Now, what would happen is... No, we don't have to. You don't have to move. You can sit at your desk.
Oh,
Okay. Now, what would happen is that in every town, there would be symbols, and these symbols would tell you things for the hobos. It was a language. Now, why they would have this is because of the fact that a lot of people were illiterate. So this was a way to be able to communicate without having words. So I'm going to give you a symbol in a scenario, and you need to tell me what you're going to do. You'll have 3 options. You'll do 1, 2, and 3. Whatever one the whole class votes will be how we go, and we'll see how we survive. Sound good? All right. Option number 1. You jump off the train when it slows down at a small town crossing. After wandering through town, you stop at a small, cozy-looking farm just outside the town. The smell of freshly baked bread comes towards you from the open kitchen window. You are about to go try to sneak some of the bread when you notice the marking below in white chalk on the side of the fence post. Do you 1, steal the bread, 2, knock on the door and ask for food, or 3, keep walking? Just think about it for a second. Go ahead and put your fingers up of what you can do. 1, 2, or 3. All right, it looks like we're going to do number 2. We're going to knock on the door and ask for food. Well, if you had done that, you probably would have died because this means man with a gun, and it means he's going to shoot you if you try to ask for help. If you had 3, you survived. So if you're 3, you're 1 for 1.
Swag, bro. I would have
All right.
shot the man with the gun.
No.
And I would have still got bread.
Okay.
If you would have gotten shot, how would you mark the fence post?
Well, more than likely you're being shot as you run away. Or it's one of those things where he runs out with the gun.
How does that mean man with a gun? It's a triangle with arms.
The arms are the gun.
What?
I don't know. I don't make these rules. I'm not the hobo.
Freaking
Okay.
hobos.
All right. Number 2. You keep walking until you see another farmhouse and an old barn. You'll think you try to sneak into the barn and sleep there for the night, but notice the marking below. Do you 1, this is a circle with an X, sleep in the barn. 2, ask for food. Or 3, keep walking. You can do 1, 2, or 3. Go ahead and decide. All right. It looks like most of you guys are going to keep walking, which would have been too bad because this means good for a handout. You would have gotten a free meal. Now, number 1, I don't think you would, because they wouldn't give you food because you're sleeping in the barn. They'd probably be kicked out. They'd find you. Okay, last one, or second to last one. The next day, you were walking by a small house when you noticed they have some large apple tree with plenty of juicy, ripe apples. You think about hopping the fence and grabbing a few for dinner, but notice the marking below. Do you 1, steal the apples, 2, just go to the door, or 3, keep walking? 1, 2, or 3, made the decision. All right, we're going to steal the apples. That would have been too bad, because this means angry dog. You're going to get bit. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. You're going to survive. Okay, so far we're not doing too hot, so last chance to survive. Well, yeah, but we did it as a class, so you automatically lose. Okay. No. Okay, next one. You see the following sign on the side of a brick building while you're walking through town. What is this telling you? Do you 1, get out of town quick, 2, ask for a job, or 3, pretend that you are sick? 1, 2, or 3. Go ahead and decide. All right, you guys gonna ask for a job?
Yeah.
All right, good decision. It means that there's work available.
Good job, guys.
So if you got 4 out of 4, you're a great hobo. Don't go be a hobo, though. Just mentally.
Let's go do it.
You do a good job.
Here we come.
Now, in terms of another example of a bad thing that happens with Hoover as president, is what is called the bonus army. What happens with the bonus army is that in World War I, veterans were told that they are going to get a large bonus for being in the army 15 years after the war. Well, it's 1930. People don't have jobs, so what are they going to want now? Their bonus. So what happens is the government says no, and they march on Washington. They set up these large Hoovervilles, and they begin to protest against the government. Unfortunately for them, though, the violence is going to come out. Now, imagine seeing in the newspaper that veterans protesting for what's rightfully theirs, and the government comes and beats them up with batons and sticks, and the policemen are hurting them. Do you see why people would start to sympathize with them, and people hate Hoover because of it? So then we're going to elect FDR. FDR is a triple star term. I can guarantee something about FDR, whether it be the New Deal or the Great Depression, will be on the AP exam as a stimulus-based question. Now, FDR comes into the presidency. Now, I will tell you with FDR, he was a good president. A lot of people determine him as one of the top 5. I will say that while he was good in the presidency, he did have a lot of personal stuff. He had polio, diagnosed with polio at 5. He actually was unable to walk, but nobody knew it. A lot of people had no idea the president couldn't walk until he had died. They would have curtains a certain way, or they would have braces for him to fake standing up, but he did have polio. Now, in terms of his wife, he was married to Eleanor Roosevelt, who's considered one of the best first ladies in American history. I will say, though, that their marriage was not the happiest marriage because it was an arranged marriage. They married each other as first cousins. They married each other for political power. In terms of what that meant in terms of love, well, with FDR and his polio, he had a nice little ranch out on the coast of the beach where he had a ton of nurses that he went and hung out with a bunch. Spent a lot of time there. They had a great time. Well, he really did have polio. That he really did have. There may have been other reasons for this area of the nurses, but regardless, though, while he may not have been the best person, he did I mean, it was similar to JFK, lots of affairs. He did make a lot of impacts in terms of the New Deal. Now, with the New Deal, by the way, New Deal for FDR, he comes into the presidency wanting to make a change. Now, if you've ever heard of the phrase, so first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. You guys have heard that before? That comes from FDR. He wants to be able to change the government and improve the economy. The New Deal is a double/triple star term. I think you'll see the New Deal more than the Great Depression, in my opinion. New Deal is very, very important. It's his set of reform movements in order to fix the economy during the Great Depression. Now, he institutes this New Deal in what is known as the 100 Days. The 100 Days are the first 100 days of FDR's presidency. And it actually becomes synonymous with how good a president is. Since FDR's time, every president is now determined by their first 100 days. So, for example, with Donald Trump, after his first 100 days, they'll analyze it. Pick it apart. How well did he do? FDR in his first 100 days passes about 300 to 600 laws, depending on who you would talk to. Donald Trump passed one. Now, before you say, wait a second, Donald Trump, that's not good, he has done a lot of executive orders, while FDR didn't. He went through Congress. President Obama only did 5. So it's not necessarily saying that's not good. The White House analyzed his first 100 days. They said that he was awesome, amazing, helped the economy, improved everything. Other people might have a different opinion. So it really is dependent on who you're going to talk to about whether or not they're successful. There's actually books that you can buy that specifically analyze the first 100 days of the presidency. And what he creates, though, during these first 100 days is what is known as an alphabet agency. Now, if you will do me a favor, take this paper and flip it to the second page with the chart. Now, while there are hundreds of alphabet agencies, these are the most popular agencies. Okay? Now, alphabet agencies are called that because they are all shortened and truncated into these things like WPA, TVA, AAA, whatever it could possibly be. Now, in terms of these alphabet agencies, there are a lot of them. I will tell you which ones are the most important to be able to remember. Now, you can, by the way, you can use the abbreviations. So if you know CCC, but you don't remember what it stands for, but you know what it's about, you can just use the term CCC in an essay. Now, this is also known as alphabet soup. So either alphabet agency or alphabet soup, those are both terms that you can be able to use in an essay. Okay? So we are going to go through all the New Deal reforms that you need to know. Do you need a second, or are you guys doing okay? I know this is like a ton of stuff. All right. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to go through the New Deal reforms. And by the way, you will be doing a project based on your favorite of these. So it is highly suggested that as we go through these, pick out a few that you really like. You'll be picking one of them to work on. So one of them, and pretty much everybody does 4 of them because there's 4 that people really like. So just FYI. Now, by the way, when we go through these, up at the top of this, you'll see that it says the words relief, recovery, and reform. These 3 terms are important. All of the alphabet agencies revolve around either relief, recovery, or reform. If you can identify those in an essay, it would be awesome. So in the far right corner or far right side of the chart, you'll see the blanks. What your goal is to decide, is it a relief? Relief means immediate. At this very moment, short term, we're going to solve a problem. Recovery means a little bit more long term. How are we going to solve and get us out of the Great Depression? And reform is, how are we going to impact the now? So how are we going to change our economy to never have this happen again? So you'll get used to it once we get started. Sound good? Okay. So the first one that we're going to go over is what is known as the Emergency Banking Act. Now, if you guys remember, when the Great Depression hits, everybody runs on the bank. It's called the bank runs. Everybody goes and pulls their money out. What happens when all the money is pulled out of the bank? What happens to the bank? It closed. It doesn't exist. And what happens if you still had money in that bank? You lost it all. So now what they're going to do is what is called a bank holiday. Now what a bank holiday said is basically they close the banks. All the banks in the United States are going to close. And the reason why is they're going to try to bring stability. They're going to say, wait, stop panicking. We're going to be okay. Don't go to the bank for a week. We'll fix this. Now, people started to panic. They said, I can't access my money. But it worked. Same thing happened in Greece. If you know anything about Greece a couple years ago, Greece's economy plummeted. They closed the banks for a day, and it stabilized the economy. Now, these bank runs were immediate. People stopped running to the banks. People stopped being fearful that they were going to lose all their money, and it helped the economy. So in the far right side, I want you to decide, is this a relief, an immediate short-term fix? Is it recovery, long-term getting us out of the depression, or reform, fix problems so it doesn't happen again? All right, so which one is it, relief, recovery, or reform? Relief. Relief. So it's immediate. Right now, closing the banks. Okay. You having fun?
Yeah. We're just happy to see you here.
I know. I missed you guys. And you guys have, all my students have been so sweet. I've been getting all this candy and stuff. It's great. Anyways, so, next one, FDIC. Now, you guys have all been to a bank before, right? Yeah? Has anybody ever seen this sign before? FDIC? A couple people? Next time you go to a bank, look for this sign. It's also on the ATMs. The FDIC is going to insure your bank. So back then, if the bank closed, what happened to all your money? It's gone. Now, the government is going to ensure that's not going to happen again. The government is going to say, Jacob, this is important if you lose all your money. No, they didn't say Jacob. They didn't whisper that. What happens is that now the bank is going to insure it. So what that means is, let's pretend that I deposit $100,000 into my bank. If my bank closes and they can't pay me back, the government gives me $100,000. Now, this depends on where you live, and it also depends on your bank. My bank is actually insured for $250,000, which means up to $250,000, you're insured. In California, where people are way richer than us, in like LA, banks can be insured up to $3-4 million. So it just depends. Now, some of you might say, oh my gosh, that's so unfair in Utah. How likely is it that you're going to have $250,000 in the bank? I mean, some of you, maybe, and then later on you can give some love back to your nice A-push teacher.
Heck yeah.
But the reality is, this probably will never happen. It hasn't happened yet. We haven't had to use it yet. Some of the recessions, though, did have to go with the FDIC. Thomas, you good? Okay. Now, the SEC, which I always get confused because there's that Eminem song that always references it, and I always think they say SEC. They don't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So go ahead and put down, I always forget, relief, recovery, or reform. What do you guys think it is? Reform, yeah. Anything that is still here today is probably a reform movement. Now, the SEC is about the stock market. Now, if you're one of my fancy people who love stocks, which I'm really bad at stocks, my dad always gives you $5 when you turn 18 to invest in the stock market, and it was gone within an hour. So don't trust me with your stocks. But some people are really good.
What did you invest
In the Disney Corporation. And the Dow went down, and so I lost my $5. It was really emotional time for me. It's okay, though. I don't have enough money to invest in Amazon. Amazon stock's like 110.
Well, at the time, it probably wasn't.
Something like that. I know Apple stock, when you first bought Apple stock, this guy had 10% of the stock, and he sold it because he thought the Apple was going nowhere. So he sold 10% of Apple company for $800.
Oh.
If it was in today's money, it's something like $700 billion.
Man, I bet.
Yeah, he made a bad choice. Now, in terms of the stock market, you've seen boards that look like this. If not, if you still have the stock market app, you can actually access it and see these. Why are we allowed to see when a business goes down? It's because of the SEC. Now, back in the day, you used to have to go to the newspaper. Now it's readily available. You can find it anywhere. Well, the thing is, you need to know if the company you're investing in is sound. So every quarter, a company on the stock market must say their earnings or what they didn't earn. So, for example, if you go to McDonald's and you see that McDonald's Corporation does all-day breakfast and their stocks raise, I'm an investor. I say, oh, I'm going to invest my money into McDonald's. On the opposite side, if Toys R Us says that they are losing $70 million every 4 months and they've done that for 5 years, are you likely to invest in that company? No. But why does a company have to admit that? Because if they're publicly traded, they have to admit that if they're going up or down in the stock market. So go ahead and put down, is that relief, recovery, or reform?
Also, McDonald's is not always open 24 hours a day.
Yep, as with most
Even
businesses.
Though they say they do. I went there at 3 in the morning and they lied. On your phone.
That was a really great story.
No, Silas heard about it.
Why are you guys all talking about going to 3? That is a story Silas had to hear.
It was on choir too. Yeah.
Oh, it was on choir too. Okay.
That's when I
All right.
for 4:30.
Hey. Because now everybody on YouTube is going to hear your story. Yes. Oh, yeah. Would you say it's reform or?
Yes.
Is it recovery? Dang it. Is it relief, recovery, reform? Reform, you guys are so smart.
Recovery.
It could be. Now, one thing I will tell you, whatever you say it is on your essay, that's what you say, as long as you can defend it. So it's all the way up to you. Okay, Glass-Steagall Act. Glass-Steagall Act, basically what happens here is that back then, everything you did was through a single bank. Your loans, your mortgages, your checking account. What the Glass-Steagall Act does is it separates those. Instead of having big business, now we're going to separate it so that if one bank closes, you're safe. That's where you get what is called a credit union. So if you've ever heard of a credit union, it's separated because of this. I will tell you something though, the Glass-Steagall Act does not exist anymore. They actually disbanded it. The reason they said that is because they said, it's over, the Great Depression's done, we don't need it. There has been some debate recently with the economy of whether we should bring it back. So, relief, recovery, or reform, go ahead and write it down. Alright, what do you think it is? Recovery. Anything that doesn't exist till today is probably recovery. Alright? Now, in terms of houses, let's start with the HOLC. What the HOLC is going to do is it's going to buy up your mortgages. Now, a mortgage is the loan that you have for a house. Now, what happens is that farmers, which by the way, farmers are really good continuity because, as we know with populism, they're constantly not having money. Well, our farmers don't have enough money to survive and they're not able to make enough money. So they begin to lose their homes. Now, these homes go for sale in these mass auctions. If you've ever seen like a house flipping show like Flip or Flop, you'll see that they go to these like foreclosure sales. That's what goes on here. Well, what happens is that these farmers are going to show up to the auctions and they're going to put a gun to your head as a buyer and say, if you buy this, I'm going to shoot you. Now, you might say that's illegal, right? Jury by your peers are your farmers. Are they going to convict you? No. So what happens is farmers are mad. So the government is going to buy the farmers' houses and be able to refinance them so farmers don't lose their homes. So is that relief, recovery, or reform? I think you put R's. Like you're already ready to go. Okay, what do you guys think it is? Relief, yeah. I say it's relief because it's an immediate change. Now, okay, listen, we're almost done. We can do it. Right, Thomas? Yeah? Okay. Now, you guys good?
Put his hand on my mouth.
Dang it.
No, it's Miles.
Miles.
He was beatboxing something. Be quiet.
Don't. Sometimes you guys are silly what you guys do.
Sometimes?
It's not as. There was one that was way more awkward than that, though. That was.
What?
They sucked your elbows.
It's gonna. No. This is the students. The sucking on the arms, that was different. But what happened is, in class, I was teaching in a regular core, actually about the New Deal. And I look over, and this kid had taken his shirt and like pulled it down and was showing another student's chest. Yeah, because he got his first chest hair, and he was so proud. That was awkward, though. Okay, now the FHA is going to have it so that you guys can start to build homes and buy homes. Now before, if you wanted to have a home, you had to put down 55% of the cost of the home as a down payment. Imagine if you wanted a $300,000 home and you had to have in cash $150,000. Would it work? So now the government is going to put a max. So they're going to say things like only do 8% or 3%, which is about $8,000. So now people can be able to buy homes. So before, nobody bought homes, and now we're switching into being able to have people be able to buy homes. So even up until now, it's caused a lot of effects in order to be able to have you guys be able to buy more homes. Although millennials supposedly aren't buying homes. That's the thing. Okay, so go ahead. Relief, recovery, or reform. Okay, what do you think? Which one is it? Reform, yep. Still lasts until today. Some of you might say recovery, which as long as you can defend it, that's perfectly fine. By the way, we're only going to CCC, so in terms of counting down, we're so close. I know some of you, especially one of you, have hit this block. It's going to be okay though. We're going to survive. All right. Don't stop poking people. That's on the camera. Mm-hmm. Do I need to bring Mr. Morales? He will come back.
Not Mr. Marvel.
His name is Mr. Morales.
I gave the name Mr. Marvel since he gave us all nicknames.
That's funny. Hold on. Yes?
If we ever do have him again, can I just be like, here, I'll beat you to it? And go
I'll just go. That would be funny. Don't do that, though. I encourage you not to get in trouble. My email to Daniel, can I share what I told you?
Oh, yeah.
Basically, my email to Daniel when he sent me is I was like, while I encourage you, I'm fine with you doing it, please don't get sent to the office.
I encourage you to do it once.
Yeah, 5 minutes later, got sent to the office. Okay, now, the NRA, which is not what you think. The original NRA was actually really okay, wait, I'm not going to say that. So, that's not what I meant to say, for the record. That's not where I was going. I meant to say, this is beneficial, it was going to come off bad. It was beneficial, not with guns, but with the economy. So what happens here is that basically it's going to set minimum wage. Now people are going to say, awesome, right? That's our minimum wage today. We're talking $1 a week. So we're not saying it's massive, but they also had child labor laws, and it basically said that you as a worker do have rights. Now this does not last past the Great Depression, which automatically means it's what? Recovery. Yeah? You could also say relief. So you could also say relief, one of those two. Now additionally, the National Labor Relations Act is going to be specific with what I would circle is the union. Basically, it gives you the right to unionize. No matter what, you have the right to be able to say, I'm not getting workers' rights. However, we know today that this is not necessarily true. If you've heard of the walkouts in Oklahoma, West Virginia for teachers, Utah's a right to work state. We don't have that option compared to there where they have the right to unionize a little bit more. However, at the time, it did allow you to unionize until the end of the Great Depression. So relief, recovery, or reform? Recovery, relief, one of those two, kind of depends. Now we're getting into my favorites, out of all the favorites. Okay? Now this is a double star one. We're getting into the ones that are very important. Oh, and we're not ending at the CCC, sorry. We have two more, but they're fun. You'll like them. Now the CCC is the Civilian Conservation Corps. Remember all of our hobos?
Yeah.
That might be struggling, maybe, Miles? That was a diss, did you hear me? Okay, whatever. I was trying to be funny, but it didn't work out. Anyways.
I'm going to be the best hobo ever.
So, if you struggled with being a hobo, you'll be fine here. Basically what it did is it gave you a job. If you were between the ages of 18 and 25, sometimes they allowed 16-year-olds, you were given a job. However, it was very militaristic style. You had to be male. You woke up at 6 a.m. to bed by 10 p.m. Your wages, out of the $30 you earned per month or per week, $25 went back to your family. You don't have a family, it goes back to the homeless. Why does this happen? You get free food. So you are benefiting to make a little bit in the economy, but sending money home, do you see how the economy might raise? They have more money, can spend more money, whatever it could be. You weren't allowed to drink. You weren't allowed to smoke. It was very specific and militaristic. Now, in terms of the CCC, though, you did work in the forestry service. So you were out in nature fixing the problems. And you might say, well, how does that apply to me today? A lot of you guys, if you've been in nature, have actually been affected by the CCC. For example, who has ever been to Yellowstone? Awesome. Most of the buildings were built by the CCC. So especially this one in particular is the Morris Museum. Immediately when you enter the West Yellowstone, that museum right there, that's Morris. That was built by the CCC.
So can we compare that to like the Chinese immigrants in the first migration that came over and then sent money home?
Almost like contextualization? Yeah. That's a great contextualization. So yeah, if you want to contextualize the New Deal by talking about Chinese immigrants sending money home in the gold rush, perfect. Did you get that, boys over there? What do you say?
Contextualization of people coming home.
Okay, whatever, you got it right. But yes, pay attention. Let's move on. Okay. Additionally, if you've ever driven up, and I'm sorry this picture went really bad. If you've ever driven to up next to Willard Bay, you'll see up on the mountains these like steps. Those were built by the CCC to prevent rock slides. If you've ever been to Strawberry, where you go to the dams were originally built by the CCC. So the CCC has massive impact even up until today. Now, if you want to be in the CCC, good news. It still is occurring right now. There's a thing called the Utah Conservation Corps. You can go and join it at the age of 16. So if you're 16 years old right now, between 18, you can go and join. Basically, you spend 6 weeks in the summer. You get Sundays off. You go and you camp out in the Uintas, and you do forestry service. You go up to Mirror Lake. You build pathways, ecology. It's a great way to get into the Forest Service if you want a job as a biologist. And, big benefits, you get $3,000 in cash for work in the 6 months and a $3,000 scholarship to a Utah State school. So that's pretty good money. 6 weeks. So it's 6 weeks in the summer. Applications went live last week. You do have to be 16. It is rigorous. My last school, I had 8 students go and do it. So you do have to be willing to work. But you do get some great returns. And if you have any interest in doing anything environmental, wildlife, vet, this is a fantastic resume builder. A lot of my students have already been pre-hired on, and the Forest Service is paying for their college to go and work for the Forest Service. So consider it. If you want the info, I'll send it out. I'll put it over on Canvas. Okay? But you do have to like the outdoors. You will be living outdoors. So, yeah, food's provided, transportation is provided. Basically, every day they bus you on Monday into the Uintas and you camp out. It's basically like backpacking. Yeah.
Did they help fix the Dust Bowl problem there?
Yes. Which we were going to get at later. But, yeah. So the Dust Bowl, there's another act that the CCC then assists that act in fixing the Dust Bowl. Exactly. Good connection. WPA is another... Oh, sorry, yeah.
You know what week this is taking place in?
There's 2 sessions. One starts right after school ends, and the other one begins in July. So it depends on the 2. But you do have to be present for all 6 weeks. Now, WPA is another double star term. Again, we have 2 more to get through. We have 6 minutes to do it, so we got to hurry. WPA is going to provide jobs for the writers. So all you singers in this room... Huh?
CCC.
Oh, CCC.
Reform.
I would put it in reform. A lot of states don't have the CCC anymore because they're not outdoorsy, but Utah does. WPA, though, if you are a singer and you're unemployed, you're a writer, an artist, if you're in a Great Depression, are you going to have money to go pay $50 to go to the opera? No. Are you going to go to the movies every weekend? No. So instead, the government's going to pay those people to give it to you for free so you can enjoy things and be happy, but also the writers and the artists also get paid too. So what that means is we're going to have tons of public works projects. For example, if you've ever been to the fisheries at Strawberry, built by the WPA. If you have ever seen Draper High School, built by the WPA. If you have ever skied at Alta Ski Resort, WPA. All of these were WPA projects here in Utah. Additionally, we had massive art projects. For example, American Gothic was created and sponsored by the WPA. Additionally, if you've seen this photo right here, which was redone in the Super Bowl, these were supposed to show what life was like in the Great Depression. Now, in terms of the artists, orchestras, singers, all these were paid for by the WPA so that you would be able to have a job. It did end at the ending of World War II. Walt Disney was also paid by the WPA to provide cartoons because he couldn't afford to do that during the Great Depression. So lots of effects from the WPA. Relief, recovery, or reform, you think? I'd say it's recovery because it ends following the Great Depression. Okay, last one, which is also a double star, is the Social Security Administration. Now what happens is we have a problem. Our elderly are getting laid off. They can't survive. They're dying because they can't eat. Disabled, dying, unemployment, can't provide money for their families. So what happens is each of you are given a Social Security number. Then, every paycheck, you have approximately altogether 8.1%, but part of that is what's called the FICA, which is your Social Security. In theory, listen, that money gets put into an account. When you turn 65, you get paychecks every month from that. If you are disabled, if you are unemployed, you get money from Social Security in order to put it back into the economy. Now, controversy. We'll explain this more in the 1960s with the Great Society. Does it mean that people won't work if they're unemployed? Does it mean that we're really bankrupt right now because of it? So there's a possibility you might not ever get your Social Security even though you're paying for it. Okay? All right. So let me explain the soup can project. Now, if you already got that paper, pull it out. If not, I have a few extras. Raise your hand. Give Vasquez back. Oh, no, pass it back. Anybody else? Okay, listen. I got like 2 minutes to explain this. So it's going to be a pretty fun project. Basically what you do, Tyler's important, is you're going to pick one of the administrations. I don't care which one you do. You are then going to create a soup can based on that agency. So basically, what this does is two things. One, it helps you learn about an agency. And two, we are also going to be donating all the food to the food drive. And we're going to go and donate it to the road home. So if you are interested, this is an opportunity. If you don't have enough money to pay for a can, let me know and I will buy you a can for you. Okay? Now basically what you do is this. You research your agency, which in theory you should already have a good basis for it. You fill out the information on the front. This is a required paper that you will turn in. Then, following the directions at the bottom, you are going to, if you'll flip it over, create your own soup can. So here's what you need. You need a logo, a creative title. So this one is the Emergency Baking Act, and their soup was like the Progresso soup. So they did Progress Forward. That's the name of their soup. Or whatever it could be. Or you can just put the name. That's totally up to you. So then what you do is you're going to do and just, if it rings, just give me a second, okay? Then you're going to do a slogan. So this person did the Social Security, and they did suffering equals reduced, or reduce suffering, or whatever it could be. You then do ingredients. So, for example, one of the ones was Social Security, and one of the ingredients was elderly people, which is fine. That works. You then get directions such as step 1, become unemployed. Step 2, receive a check. Step 3, cash a check, whatever. Nutrition facts is basically 5 facts about it. It's really easy. If you want an example, you can come look at it. Due next Monday. Due next Monday.
Search up when it started.
Yes. Hey, listen. One thing really fast. Next class is special day. You need to come here for a roll. Okay? Have a great day. See you all later.